These are my two favorite electric dirt bikes. We've got the Stark Varg and the modded Surron Ultra B. Whenever I post about either of these bikes, there's always a debate which bike is better. Some people think that the Ultra B can compete with the Varg, and some people think that there is absolutely no chance. I beg to differ. I think that these are actually closer than you may think. I'm here with Jet Underwood and we're at Thunder Valley motocross track today. Jet hasn't ridden either of these bikes, so pretty excited to get him out on it. What do you think, dude? You ready for this?
All my buddies have got to try them and I feel like I'm kind of left out here. I'm more than excited. I want to get on them.
First up is the Ultra B. And to be clear, we're not talking about a stock Ultra B, because this thing is far from stock. We've got a link to the full build list in the description, but the quick rundown is it's got the Cirrus F43 fork and R46 shock set up with the motocross tune. We're running the EBMX X9000 controller at 17 kilowatts with the stock motor and battery, 21/18 wheel combo, and Dunlop MX34 tires. And a few other odds and ends like steering stabilizer, ODI bars, Warp 9 pegs, chain, and sprocket. All right, let's get out there.
Super impressed. I thought it was going to be a little bit more down on power just because all the suspension and upgrades and stuff like that. You could hit any jump as long as you felt comfortable to jump it. It may not have the speed, but it has the suspension to where even if you came up a little short, you know, it's going to speed it up, no problem. Dude, honestly, I was expecting it to like clank it, and it just ate it up. Honestly, really? Yeah, like it. Right as I landed, I was like waiting for it to like rebound or get a little crazy, and it just soaked it up. If it just had a little bit more power, it would be like perfect. I'm like jumping over the berm into the like the bump, and then hitting the tail top, and it just like eats it up so nice, and then lands. Man, it feels just like a big bike. Man, when I first got on the bike, I was just a little hesitant because I'm used to the normal Surron Ultra Bs not having the greatest suspension, and so I really didn't know what it could or couldn't take. So I was being a little timid on it. I came up short a couple times on some jumps due to lack of power, and the suspension just ate it up like I was on a normal 250F. Man, I was honestly scared. I was like, oh no, I'm just glad I got motocross boots on, and right as I hit, everything just like all the fear just went away. I was blown away that it just absorbed it and ate it up like it did. It really does feel just like big bike suspension on an electric bike that I would think that isn't meant to be out here with that suspension. If it just had a little bit more power, I wouldn't mind riding it here all the time.
Next up, we've got the Stark Varg. This thing is completely stock, aside from some 21/19 gold wheels that Woody's Wheelworks built up for us.
This thing is so sick. This thing feels as light as a 250. But more power than a 450. The Stark Varg, instantly I felt right at home on it. The suspension was feeling great. The power delivery was awesome. I was blown away at just like how smooth and how well it handled. I honestly didn't want to get off the bike. It's so much faster not having to shift. And like the best way to explain that would be like if you're going through a whoop section on third gear, you know, on a normal 250 or 450, typically you don't shift in the middle of the whoops, so as it tops out at the top of third gear, that's just where you're gonna stay. With the Stark Varg, I mean, you come into the whoops and it just keeps pulling. It'll pull all the way what seems to be like 5th gear. By the end of it, you're doing 50 miles an hour in the whoop section. I was really just kind of blown away how great the bike was. Head to head, man, honestly, they both handle very similar. Almost, I would say, the exact same. The only difference is really that I felt was just the power. The suspension on either bike felt phenomenal, and the bikes absolutely crushed it in all departments. I would say like the Ultra B, like the suspension feels just as good, to be honest. The upgrades that you did to it, they're super comparable to this as far as like the way it handles and flies through the air. It's just not as fast, whereas this thing has the best of both worlds, obviously. Tons of power and tons of suspension. The Ultra B is like its little baby brother.
The verdict on the MX track is that the Ultra is much better than expected, but the Varg is on another level. You just can't match the size, weight, and power of the Varg. It's clearly the best bike for the motocross track, especially a pro national size track like Thunder Valley. Where the lines begin to blur with these two bikes, and where a lot of this Varg versus Ultra debate comes from, is in the mountains and the woods. The Varg is a weapon out here as well, no doubt, but this Ultra is roughly 58 pounds lighter, with plenty of power to go fast and suspension that punches above its weight. If you're a true pro rider, then for sure, the Varg is the answer. But guess what? You're probably not, and neither am I. If the terrain is fast, whooped out, or wide open, then the Varg is the bike that I'm going for. But when things slow down, terrain gets technical and off camber, then I don't need the raw power, weight, and size of the Varg. I prefer the lower seat height, lighter weight, and flickable nature of the modded Ultra B. I'm straight up just faster, more comfortable, and less tired when I ride the Ultra in this terrain, hands down. As for battery range, we typically see roughly 25 miles of range on the modded Ultra B, and roughly 34 miles of range in the same terrain on the Stark Varg. And I know I'm a broken record on this subject, but I do have multiple batteries for the Ultra B, so I can extend my ride times and I can successfully race this bike, which I thought was a huge accomplishment this summer at the San Isabel Enduro, a 60-mile off-road race. When it comes to price, the Varg has come down quite a bit, originally $14,000 and now down to the $10,000 to $11,000 range, depending on where you find your deals. And the build that we've done on this Ultra B is not cheap. This bike is coming in at roughly $12,500, so you are going to spend more on an Ultra B at this point. So, does the Varg have more performance? Yep, it sure does. A lot more. I also like that the Varg has a direct drive gearbox, as opposed to the jack shaft on the Ultra B, and a proper swing arm that doesn't flex, both of which are things that can become issues when you push the Ultra B hard. It's also nice that you can roll a Varg right off the showroom floor and have an unbelievably competitive machine straight away. So it's not apples to apples, but in my humble opinion, there is a time and a place for both of these bikes. And for those of us who aren't a top-level pro rider, the Ultra B can perform surprisingly well. And if you haven't had the opportunity to ride one for yourself, then I'm sure you'll be in the comments telling us why it doesn't stand a chance. But for those of you who have ridden a built Ultra B, what do you think? Thanks for watching.